So, any questions from you? Sasha, please go ahead. I'm just giving you the microphone, sorry.
Could you go back to the slide where you have the categories?
Sorry?
This slide, no, the categories, just voilà. This slide?
No, in your second slide it was, I think, it was with the colors. Yeah. My question is initially, what did you have in mind when you started the work? Is it search words for a judge, or is it categorizing to the experts to be registered? That's a different thing. Because if you start with the categories, for my field of expertise, I need like 5 colors. So if you have an environmental case, you could start at real estate, you could start at animals, plants, etc. Machinery, techniques. So that is, my point is, from what starting point did you work? Is it the search words eventually, or is it the way to register the experts, make an order for the experts?
That's, on the one hand, pretty easy to answer. On the other hand, I see your point with environment. I'm not pretty sure if it's, well, it's residing under the third group already. We have singled it out as a separate category in the end for the reasons you have given, because that's also a classic cross-section matter. There are influences in medicine, in agriculture, in I don't know what. And it's not so easy to tackle it, because there are member states who dedicate themselves to manifold different categories they put forward in tackling the environment issue, and some of them who do not. And how do we proceed? Where we started was that we asked member states to provide their nomenclature. So the nomenclature, wording was the starting point for this. There might be additional keywords, let's say, in experts who are registered, who are specializing in one or the other aspect that might be added in the national nomenclature. We didn't have that at hand, and we couldn't have work it in either. The thing is that, to my understanding for the moment, the nomenclature we came up with shall be a first parameter in the search tool to, well, not have, let's say, a list of 100,000 experts, to narrow it down on specific categories, and we have different levels of specialization already. You should be presented a list of experts also showing and displaying in the search results what national nomenclature they have registered for, and if keywords are, let's say, attached to that in the national nomenclature, that might also be displayed in the results. So that might not be we cannot maybe not solve it in the nomenclature at the very beginning of the search process, because it would be too specific maybe. But in the, let's say, end product of the search engine, as I envisage it, there might be a solution for what you speak of, maybe coming from the searching and refining the search process than rather the nomenclature side.
And the question is, the nomenclature is a tool for a judge to find the right expert. So in some countries, there are high courts driving this nomenclature. So we have the discussion between us and between Jan and Mai. Jan saying, okay, what do you need as a judge to the tool to find an expert? And I was it's a part of an expert saying, okay, we must have also subgroups, but yet we couldn't go further in the work with the subgrouping the fields. It's too early.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it shows also the work that you have in front of you, because just give you some impression, because I saw some of the beginning work. We have in some countries, even if they are small, they have 700 categories for areas of experts, and we have other countries which have 20. And in between, we for example, feel like nomenclature or differences in approach. And that's why I think it's a right approach to go ahead with starting points. And I think this is a very good starting point in my opinion. But other questions? If not, I would raise the question, when you did some research on the nomenclatures in the pilot countries, for example, what were the main differences in the approach for the nomenclatures? Do you remember?
I do remember some of the discussions where we had difficulties to understand each other on terminology. What I do remember more as a starting point problem maybe, or something to come over, was the differences in number of nomenclature. So we had I think member state with 12 different fields of expertise where you could register, and speaking of Austria, it's over 700 different fields. That to put that into something that works for everybody was the challenge. But to give an example, the business world, where we have economy and finance as the group, we have singled out categories that do put together accountants, auditors, and tax consultants, for example. At an earlier draft, we had separated them into different categories, and then the discussion went on where we say that in some member states, the scope of their profession is overlapping. And if an auditor is, let's say, also doing a little tax consultancy and a little accountancy, where do we put them in the nomenclature, in all the three of them or just one? So we had to stay general, put them together into one category. That was one example that I can tell you. In the end, of course, at that point in time where we decided to stay more general, a couple of problems were solved by nature. But still, well, we are very much looking forward to what's coming up.
Other question? Angela, just a second.
Thank you. Sorry, Jan. I don't read architect. Maybe with construction, like engineer and machinery, and architect construction.
Architect.
Thank you so much. I just to understand if really architects have a lot of specialized, no? Construction and a value of apartment, the construction, but maybe like engineer, machinery is architects and construction, but maybe architects are expertise like arts, antiques, archaeology, I don't know, jewelry. That's a question for your expertise. Thank you.
Actually, Angela, thank you for your question, because you're in the middle of the discussions we had on the field of expertise of architects. You can only see the first level, then there is a second level of categories, and under construction, there is one category that says architecture.
Right. No, it was not possible to show up all the subcategories on the screen, so we had taken this in account.
By the way, I do suppose that you will be provided the draft later on. But we had a discussion going on where to put architecture, under construction and the construction business, or under engineering, let's say. And it's still not solved. That's one of the issues, because some would rather consider them also as something designing, which is going into the direction of arts somehow. And some it's very technical.
No.
You could.
Giovanni and me were no agree. First, the architect is a technique, and then,
That's a valid approach, and
okay.
We're in the middle of the discussions, but there is a specific category, and I'm pretty sure you will find it in the end. So that's the proposition.
Yeah, thank you very much, first of all, for the question and answers. And I see when you ask the specialists, they are the specialists of the specialists of the specialists, and that gives us always some kind of problems. But please.
Merci. Donc je suis
Thank you. My name is Muriel Leters. I'm a judicial expert in Belgium at the Belgium Expert Association, and I was very fortunate to work together with Jan on this nomenclature. And I had worked already on the Belgian nomenclature. So thank you very much for this outstanding presentation. That is a perfect summary of the work that has been done. If I may, I would like to add something in reply to the lady before. We considered both aspects, a nomenclature for magistrates and a nomenclature for experts that becomes more and more precise and detailed, and also to have an update of the new categories, media, forensics. For example, these didn't exist in the past, in previous and past nomenclatures. So this has already meant some work to add and complement the existing nomenclatures, and also how to simplify these nomenclatures so that the magistrate is able to find the expert he wants to appoint. In Belgium, do not forget that the register is open to the public. It's now online. Anybody can consult it. John Doe can have a look at this register, so it needs to be simplified. And this was a task for the basic group. And things will become more and more complex with the subcategories, and this is also very important. These subcategories are essential for the expert. Now, because you're talking French, I also will add a reply in French. With regard to the medical field, I've compared what we wanted to prepare with I consulted my Belgian colleagues on this, and there were some correspondences, some matches. And when you talk about forensics, for example, it is what we call purely forensic science and also forensic medicine. So you need to be aware of the language.
And I think it's a very good starter what you produced there in Belgium, because it's one of the newest registers so far that you can consult in public. And and it contains 3 languages at least. That's good. Other questions from inside? If not, I would have another, if you allow. Well, if you have to leave, Bertrand, please leave.
No, I can answer your question. So.
Yeah. No, it's just perhaps also to give an idea. When you did the comparison work, were there in all countries that you had nomenclatures from all national nomenclatures or even regional nomenclatures in?
Both. We had member states nomenclature collected that was one national nomenclature in place. We had, going back to Italy, we had nomenclature from 2 courts. And I think from Poland, we gathered a nomenclature that wasn't even particularly in place, but was a compilation or a summary of all the, 46 different nomenclatures were in place, and somebody has made the effort to kind of put it together. We didn't go into each and every detail that might be out there, because at some point we saw where the similarities are, and the regional differences we couldn't really mirror anyways. So at some point we saw the groups at the beginning I showed you, which are more or less alive, that was like the common denominator that you were speaking of, and we could rather easily and rather swiftly see where we're going.
So that means, I'm coming to you just a second, that means that also the countries, they still have a lot of work in front of them in harmonizing even their regional and national nomenclatures perhaps, and I think that this is a good starter then, even for them.
If I may, what we try to do and what I'm trying to argue is that it allows for enough flexibility to, but still, you can take it as of course a pattern for future developments wherever you are.
Yeah. Okay. First added value, I recognize. So thank you very much for your question.
Thank you. 2 questions. So the first is whether you have found for some categories your work already done by the EU directives. I refer, for example, to the freedom of practice and the freedom of establishment for lawyers. And this categorization of lawyers and freedom of lawyers and the nomenclature of lawyers in different member states is already done by these two directives on the freedom of practice and freedom of establishment. And the second, and I don't know whether you have found some other categories of professions which are already disciplined by the EU law from this point of view. And the second question is much more difficult because I'm talking about the second level, specialization. Means this specialization means that a professional, so an expert, can express his or her ability to know and have a particular qualification in special fields, and so it is the byproduct of an act of will, free will of the person, or when you speak about specializations, you connect this term with a title which is given by the universities or by the public bodies, because there are two different ideas of specialization. For example, I take the Italian example of lawyers. Until 2 weeks ago, every lawyer had the opportunity to write in his or her CV or in a website which were the fields in which this lawyer was specialized or had better experience and so on. Until 2 weeks ago, the Minister of Justice has published all the rules concerning specialization, so there is a regulation. The regulation means that a lawyer who wants to be specialized in a special matter must take a degree, a double degree, a degree of sort of qualification concerning 2 years, attending 2 years classes in universities, and the title is given by the university. So in different member states, there are different levels of specialization, different levels of idea of specialization.
But we haven't taken in account the inscription of the expert. We are just listing the different fields. Afterwards, it's a work to do. How are the criteria to make the inscription of an expert in the categories? We haven't done this job, but I agree completely with a different kind of specialization.
And I might add that when it comes to specialization, I do consider and acknowledge that the experts want to show and put it on display what they're especially able to do. That might not be a question of the nomenclature itself, but maybe some addition that they can enter into their registry or into their account. And we are discussing it as far as I'm involved in Working Package 4 and the IT tool, if we want to display that also in the research results. There can be matters of who tests the qualification. Is that something that needs a degree to be shown that I'm allowed to enter a specific specialization or not? Is there a competition between experts? Then the effect where everybody puts in his CV what he likes and can display it in the results. I don't know where we end there. But coming from the nomenclature task, I want to say, this is so much more general that we cannot foresee what the search result in the EIT tool in the end will present or not, because the information that is displayed there might be stored somewhere, need to be stored. That's also varying very much nationally. But I do intend that in the end product, there should be some way of going through the search results, entering keywords, entering specialization terminology to some extent, where the expert can be found more easily. I think that's something that maybe the other steps of the evaluation of the search tool will come up forward with, but it's not so much a question of nomenclature as I consider it.
Yeah, thank you. I think this resumes some of these questions. And just a second.
Just a short question. If an expert wants to register, does he have to apply for a certain field, or who decides? Does an expert have to come and say, okay, I want to register in this? And can he then be told, that's not the exactly right field, you have to apply for this or that?
Not to my understanding. And I do hope that we have a common ground on that. The idea of what we will do next, to come back to that, is that we have a FindexII nomenclature that we came up with. And now member states are asked to take their national nomenclature in each and every category and fit it into one of the FindexII categories that are in place. And in the end, the expert cannot choose which category he resides under, but he will take and be automatically from his national entry. If there are more, that's fine. Then he appears also in the European search engine in more categories, but shouldn't choose. It should be automatically combined and corresponding.
Thank you. You are the country with 20, I think. 20.
My question will be very short as well, but I come back to the very start of your work when you made the état des lieux. There is this European tool, statistical tool, the nomenclature of the economic activities. Did you have a look at this NAS code to have an inspiration or check whether all your categories fill into these statistical codes of Europe?
I'm going to be honest with you, I wasn't aware of that statistical tool. And
so it's a very common tool used in the economic field to make statistics.
I see.
It's called NACE.
You mean it's a software that would have run over the compilation?
Sorry?
It's a software that runs over the compilation? I see.
Of the economy.
I see.
Of the economy, I think this is.
Okay.
Yeah, where we have movements of different areas of the economy, and there are a lot of them are covered, I can tell you, because I know this thing. And on the other hand, in this economic thing, you do not find anything about forensics, for example. It's perhaps, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I heard that in Poland you analyze a list which belong to court. It's 46. But you know that in Poland is another kind of list. For example, in Poland, another statute is of language translator, and this special list managed by Minister of Justice. We have another specialist list for experts who manage with people with abuse habits, alcohol, for example, and there is another specialist. Do you know about this?
Excuse me, could you be a little more specific? That are different types of judicial experts or different roles?
Generally, we have 46 list of typical experts, but we have also some specialist list. For example, for language translators, I see their translators. We have another specialist list for experts who make opinion about people, for example, who have problem with narcotics or alcohol. Do you know about this?
I'm pretty sure I do not know any nomenclature that is out there in Europe or in each and every court and each and every list. The idea that we have is that we try to be, in this respect, as general as necessary, to let any of these specialities still find a spot and still find, let's say, a cupboard that is labeled with a specific category or not. And if not, you can always fall back to the groups. I want to say, and maybe I would like to emphasize this, member states with only 12 different categories of fields of expertise will never be able to fill all the categories where we have, I think, more than 30. So that they can also decide to fit it into the first level, second level, and third level if it's in place or not. That should allow for the flexibility. And if there's a specialization or a speciality that we do not cover at all, we have opened up also, and I'm very thankful for your question because I've forgotten to mention that. In the groups, we have entered also a category that says other, where all the other categories that we could not find a place for can find a place at least, unless we try to update it and adjust it even more. But I'm not aware of all the specialties that there are, and that might be the fallback position of us to allow for a start in the process.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just wait a second for...
I want only mention that if you link the IT system with the list, you must note that we have the general list. I think that in another countries, the situation can be the same. And we have a download list, special list, and you must know about this if you want to have a range view about specialist.
Totally understand, and thank you for the hint. I think it's something more for working package 4 than when it comes to the technique of really combining and let's say connecting. But still, I encounter and I do see that there are a couple of, I want to say, obstacles to overcome still.
Czech Republic, Vladimir Kulil. I have a question. You have in the list of group of experts, you have real estate. But what does it mean? You mean valuation of real estate? Because valuation is maybe 50% of the expert work. I think better is instead real estate. You can give their valuation, because valuation is valuation of companies, movable, mobile, real estate, yes, together. Up to you, but I think this is not exactly done real estate.
Also, thank you very much for your question, your hint.
But economy, it is not valuation. Economy is economy of system of state economy at etc. But real estate, what does it mean?
Basically, I would not agree and would not disagree with you. Did you mention renovation as a
renovation?
The thing is,
to change the instead real estate, you can give valuation.
And as I mentioned in one of the other slides, we are still in the process of considering to name this group real estate valuation, because it's the most prominent area in the field of real estate, basically. If you speak of renovation, I'd rather put that under construction. But as you see, we are in the middle of discussing where to put what, and nothing else we did. And in the end, we have to put it somewhere, I want to say. And this might not work out for everybody equally being happy, or being equally happy. Maybe in the end, we are all equally unhappy. But that's the main, on the core discussions we had in Working Package 3, because the differences are to be tackled and to be solved somehow. And I do consider that if you are looking for a real estate valuation expert, finding that group, you will maybe look up here and not in one another group, maybe. I don't know. There might be other areas and other fields of expertise concerning real estate, and we could split it up on the second level, but we haven't done it yet. And I'm just saying this is also work in progress, maybe, and we'll need to see what's coming in. But the main nomenclature we found in existing nomenclature was the valuation part. So I would definitely consider it to be residing under that term.
Yeah, thank you very much. Angela, last question, I think.
Jan, as a consideration for Professor Guido Alpa, the specialized expertise is a value added at the profession.
Yeah.
First is with the title, academic title, or maybe in some in Italy with high school, but important for this expertise or specialization is training and follow the continue formation for the expertise specific. And second thing for Vladimiro is maybe a construction in maybe real estate and economy. Sometimes maybe for experience in Italy, like an expert in valuation is maybe in some time both. For example, when we make a valuation of an apartment, we have a question subjective and objective. Subjective is with the head of an economics or maybe lawyer, both headed of judge. And then there is a technical for the value, objective, the object. But it's a specific. Okay, thank you, Jan.
Again, I think there are valid approaches in member states on different, let's say, levels. And I understood your question in a way that real estate valuation can consider, let's say, the valuation, but also technical parts. Can you tell if there are two different fields of expertise, nomenclatures in Italy that you can fall under? Together. I cannot tell where we will end, but in the end we will, at the next step, ask member states to take their national nomenclature and name, let's say there are 20 areas numbered from 1 to 20, and say number 1 of your national nomenclature falls under which of these groups. And then we get a clearer picture on the problems we will still have to solve, but that might be one of them.
Yeah, I think excellent, and it shows how much work we have in front of us. I have the feeling, Jan, that sometimes you dream of nomenclature so far. You have dreamt so far. But thank you very much, and Bertrand also for this very good presentation and showing a lot of the difficulties that we have on a European basis. Even we haven't solved the national ones. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.